auto, deporte.
Deportivo.
Deportivo.
Hey everyone, how's it going? Azren the language nerd here. Hope you're doing very, very well. Welcome to another immersion camp video. I've done a whole bunch of these immersion camps in the past and captured a good chunk of them on camera. And I'm excited to talk about this one and how it went. Overall, the structure of the event was similar to what I've done in the past. We started things off with a game called Conversation Jenga. Now, Conversation Jenga, for those of you who don't know, it's one of my favorite language learning games of all time. Essentially, you take a normal game of Jenga and you number off every single piece. So every piece gets a number. Each number has a corresponding question that I've prepared in advance. And what happens is that when the student or when the player takes a piece out, they look at the number, they read the corresponding question, and everybody then gets to talk about and answer the question that the one student read out.
Si tú fueras Ryan Gosling por un día, ¿qué harías?
So, harías es...
Condicional.
Conditional.
Sí.
Okay.
This is not only, in my perspective, a very good and a very effective icebreaker, a way for everybody to get to know each other, because, you know, people don't really know each other when they first sit down together for the lesson, not necessarily. So it's a good way to get to know each other. And equally importantly, it's an effective way for people to be introduced to new vocabulary, new grammar tenses, and practice old vocabulary and old grammar tenses. The reason I say that is because when I prepare these questions, I'm very deliberate. I prepare different questions for different levels. And what happens is that these questions are designed to, first of all, make you practice things that I know you already know. But second of all, it's going to make you talk about things that maybe you've never studied or maybe haven't studied that much or haven't learned before. And what that makes you do is realize that, I don't know how to say or talk about this type of scenario. And then I can then use it as a teaching point and teach you what you would need to know in order to be able to talk about that specific topic or that specific question or that specific category of things.
Que el agua, the océano, would be, yeah. Sería
Muy bien.
Caliente. Or tibio.
From there, we went out and went more into the field. We went to a Venezuelan restaurant, and I picked this restaurant on purpose because I've been there. And this particular restaurant has Venezuelan staff and a Venezuelan owner. So everybody there speaks Spanish. And therefore, it was, I guess you could say, an effective way for people to keep using Spanish, but not necessarily in a classroom environment and not just with me, with Azren. They got to use it with other native Spanish speakers, other people, you know, apart from just myself. I think another thing we did, I've done this in previous events as well, is I had another person join us for the event who is a native Spanish speaker from Ecuador. And so that was also just another element of listening practice and conversation practice throughout the whole day. So you're not just listening to myself in Spanish, but you're also listening to another person who is very proficient, obviously very fluent in the language.
¿Qué tal el clima de allá?
Es muy bueno.
¿Sí?
En Quito el clima puede estar así, pero nunca necesitas una chaqueta.
No, nunca.
Pero de noche puedes ponerte una chaqueta
¿Hay calefacción?
de cuero. ¿Ah?
¿Hay calefacción?
No existe calefacción.
No.
From there, we came back to the classroom and we did some reading. I picked out some children's books, and I've said it before in quite a few of my other videos. Children's books are a really great way to improve your vocabulary despite your level. Doesn't matter if you're advanced, doesn't matter if you're a beginner, doesn't matter if you're intermediate. It's really good for all levels of language learners. And especially because children's books are not necessarily simple. You have simple children's books, but also a children's book with more complex vocabulary.
Entonces, la primera es arrastrar. Entonces, como to drag, ¿no? Tomar una persona y... ¿no? Como en kindergarten, ¿no?
Sí, perfecto.
Un día, un hambriento zorro se preparaba para cazar su cena.
Oye, conejo, gritó alguien desde afuera. ¿Estás en casa? ¿Conejo? Pensó el zorro.
El cerdo está preguntando que... Oye, conejo, conejo. Y el zorro piensa, ¿ah? conejo. No hay conejo acá.
So we read some children's books, talked about the vocabulary, got to introduce my students to new things, and then we called it a day. But overall, one big thing stood out from today. Because of the people we had and the kind of level they had, some of their confidence levels, some people were more extroverted, the conversations were more self-driven this time. Often, I'm the one who prepares some topics and makes sure I'm driving things, I'm asking questions, I'm promoting people to talk, I'm the one making sure people are getting chances to talk and practicing. I'm quite involved. This time around, people were talking kind of of their own accord, especially because we had another native Spanish speaker who would also jump in and spark some conversations. And so what happened is that as people were talking, people were hitting their own blocks of, oh, how do I talk about this? Ooh, I've never done that before. How do I say this word? How do I say that word? So people actually had a chance to I guess you could say, learn how to say the things that they would normally say because they were the ones trying to say them and didn't know how. And then they would ask me, hey, Azren, we're talking. How do I say this? I go, oh, let's talk about that. Write it down, talk about it. Then they go, okay, great. They bring it in, they keep talking. And that was an interesting dynamic. And sometimes with lower levels, it's harder to do, right? If you have a lower level group, that's not always possible because they don't have the vocabulary to do any kind of spontaneous conversation. It's just not real. It's not maybe fair to expect that or anything. But this time around, we had a group of people who had an intermediate level, and we had some people that maybe were a little bit more extroverted, a little bit more confident just trying to speak, and that led to that outcome. And so it's interesting that you could have, it was just a bit of a reminder to me to be like, oh yeah, you can have events where I am leading a lot of the conversations because maybe that's what's needed to make the event effective. But effective events can also happen if people's learning style is different. If someone's learning style is more around having that free-flowing conversation, learning more by them trying to say things and then asking me questions and allowing the group to almost control some of the direction we go in. So anyway, thanks for watching that video. Hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, we'll talk later. Bye for now.